TN News.
It is now 20 minutes after 8, right here on Morning Express. That's local time for us to look at your money. Today we're looking at farming, and not just farming, but dairy and beef farming. And let me introduce the guests that we have this morning. And I'll start with my immediate left, where we have Jimmy Brooks. And Jimmy Brooks is the chairman for Brookside Livestock Breeders Show that will be coming up on the 21st to the 23rd of July. Good to have you, Jimmy, and welcome. Morning. And next we have Turi Van Halden, who is also the show manager. Good to have you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Last but not least, we have Shaban Mwanzondo, who is a farmer. And thank you for joining us this morning. Before we come to the show, I'd just like us to a little bit understand about the beef and dairy farming. And let me start with you, Shaban, and possibly what it entails for one to get into this kind of farming, beef and dairy farming.
Well, perhaps maybe I'll actually cover more on the beef farming.
Okay.
And what it is that you got to have the passion. You got to know that actually this is an aim that you actually put it in a goal, and make sure you're actually looking forward to get your results in the end, and not just actually doing the farming and then you leave it somewhere halfway and say that, oh, well, I'm not really winning here. Many of us actually up in Laikipia, the Laikipia Plateau, basically are ranchers. And the ranchers are basically doing beef farming. And the beef farming basically requires that you got enough land, you've got the knowledge, and you'll be able to actually put up the animal into the right standard and the right class, so that you can actually be able to earn yields from your farming. If I actually possibly touch briefly on the history of the Boran. Just
the
briefly.
Boran here is a specific cow that is brought about for beef.
Yeah, absolutely. What it is that, some years back, when the settlers actually arrived in the country, basically they came in with their own breed of animals from abroad. And these were animals like, say, the shorthorn. But then when they realized actually they were not suitable for the country here, and so they decided that I probably have to find another type of animal that can be able to work well. So further on, actually went to the northeastern and found the Boran people actually living there. And they had an animal that was actually really suitable and would be able to actually really be able to thrive well in this kind of climate that we had around here, and be able to breed it up well and be able to get good fertility and working ability, drought resistance, and ability to actually convene rough pasture and quality of beef. So then in the 1950s, and that's where actually the Boran Society was started, to be able to safeguard the interest of the animal and be able to actually bring it up to standard and cultivate more animals and yields that will be able to actually put the farming into a good class.
Okay. Let me come to you, Jimmy, and maybe possibly look at the show that's coming up. Before that, maybe we look at the practical side of it. Culturally, we do know that animals, we have kept them more for, it's more like a heritage, it's more of a, but now this is looking at it from a different perspective, where you're doing it literally as a business. How lucrative is the business if one does it right?
Yeah, it can be fairly lucrative. You're not going to make an absolute, you're not going to make a million. I could think of other ways to make a great deal of money. Mm-hmm. But, as Shaban says, you've got to have passion for your job. Mm-hmm. One, you can make a very good living with whether you're a beef farmer or a dairy farmer. You can make a good living, but if you've got the passion for it, you will do a good job to make a success of that.
Okay. Now, for you to have breeds that will give you either very good yields in terms of beef or milk, I would imagine that you need to have a good breed rather than just any cow that you probably inherit or buy from any farm. Are they very expensive to invest in? The initial investment.
Initial investment. I mean, half your herd is the bull. Okay, so as a startup farmer, you need to look for reasonable, good genetics to start your herd up, whether you use AI or you use natural service. Now, AI is obviously the cheaper, easier option for a small farmer. And in fact, what is the Kenya Animal Genetics Resource Center in Kabeti has Baran semen, and it has dairy semen, obviously, a lot more of it. And there's very good genetics there that will start you up. But if you want to buy a bull, you can pay, as a commercial farmer, you'll pay up to 150,000 shillings for a bull.
Okay. And is that a mature bull, or is that one that you have to?
No, that's a mature bull that's ready to work. That'll work, and it'll give you good results.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me come to Turi, and regarding the actual show, what is it that you're planning or hoping to achieve out of this show that's coming up, the Brookside Show?
We are planning to have all the breeds, whether they are dairy or beef, as well as small stock, sheep and goats. We have the best farmers coming to this show with those animals, and we want to show the public and as well educate the farmers who come to see the show. In the show, we have a competition among the breeders through the judging of the various breeds, and then the public is there, the farmers, because this is a show organized by farmers for farmers. So those farmers who are watching will be explained why a judge decides to make an animal number one. And in that process they learn, and we hope when they go home they will try to improve, because when a farmer sees a champion, he in his mind
Should want to have one like
compares with what he has at home, and he say, okay, yeah, I now know what I should do. As Jimmy said, the genetics is very important, and when we have the sheep and goats, the same system, yeah, milk, goats, beef,
No, meat.
sorry, meat, yeah, and for the sheep, even wool. Farmers don't know that, for example, wool is business, is money. At the show we will have, apart from the judging of the small stock, even a class where we judge the wool, we call that
quality of the wool?
the fleece.
Okay, the fleece.
Yeah, and we have a demonstration in that wool tent where we have the fleeces. We have a group who is processing the wool right on
So
the
that's
showground.
the value addition.
That's a value addition.
Okay, I'll come to that in just a bit, because it's not just the beef and dairy that you're displaying. But let me come to you, Shaban. And generally speaking, dairy and beef farming is sometimes viewed as something that you do when you've retired. Is there a way of, trying to make it attractive, especially to the younger generation? Because obviously for you to have this experience and the right hand for you to gain and begin to make good money out of it, you need time. Is there a way of making it, have a different look to it?
Well, I mean, I think that has been the perception in the past, that actually, for many years past, that people think that farming is actually when you're now tired and you want to go home and rest. But actually, the recent world actually shows that the youth can actually do it as well. I mean, well, I'm old enough, perhaps I'm already retired. I mean, other than actually trying to double up in a show as a treasurer, but I actually think that it's not really a case of like you tell yourself, now at this age, I want to go back home and actually do the farming. Perhaps it's actually good to study now. And in fact, actually, as it is now, it's not a case of like go back home and do traditional farming. You actually need to have lots of knowledge. You need to have lots of kind of material that you probably learned at school and the like, so that you can put it in practice. So then that means that actually we encourage the youth to actually go in more And in fact, if they can put in more time to do the farming, then they'll be the best because they actually got all this study material they can look at, as opposed to most of the old people, perhaps they don't really want to look at the modern ways in terms of written books and the like to do the farming. So perhaps I should say that we're coming out of that stage now. Maybe we're left with about 30% of actually the old guys doing the farming, and the youth actually probably doing much better.
Okay.
I mean, it's a pity that actually probably look at Nairobi, people are actually more occupied than going to school and classes, and then they end up being telephone farmers, which with telephone farming would not really work at all. The best thing is that you actually put in time, and you have to be there, and you have to follow it up all, and you have put in the systems and make it work.
And I imagine it's a business like any other. I mean, you'd require the time, you need the knowledge, you need the commitment to do that. But let me come to you, Jimmy, in terms of how difficult is it for one to set up? One of the challenges that one would imagine is, first of all, just land. You require at least sizable land. I know there is zero grazing, there is also free-range grazing. How difficult is it to get into this kind of farming?
Well, as you say, I mean, the pressure on land in Kenya with our population is enormous. So it is a difficult thing to get to. But I mean, if you have the will and the passion to do it, people always find a way to
where there's a will, there's a way.
Indeed, where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
I mean, to add to what Shaban was saying, from a personal experience, I've been trying to build up a herd of Barans, and I'm getting somewhere. I'm by no means the best Baran farmer, or whatever it is, but it's taken me 30 years.
Wow. So,
you know, don't wait until you retire because it's too late. Really. You need to start when you're young. I mean, that's one of the main reasons you need to encourage young people to get in there.
To get into it.
Because to build up your genetic base.
Okay, now over a period of 30 years, what would you say is the progress that you have? What are some of the challenges that you faced, apart from land?
Finance. Yeah, I mean, having the wherewithal to go out and increase your herd, to get the genetics. As I say, you can get AI and everything, but you also have to have the females.
Right.
And obviously it takes 9 months, you know, once you inseminate the cow to get that thing, and then it takes to get the calf, and then it takes another 3 years before that cow produces. And then the selection, I mean, you will obviously always get dud animals, which you have to be ruthless in removing from your herd. And picking the good ones.
Okay.
And that's what takes a lot of time.
All right, Turi, during the show that is coming up, you've mentioned that there's those value addition things that farmers can do to ensure that you get most out of it. Now, I know we do have very many dairy farmers who probably don't do it in a professional way. Maybe you have a cow, and because it gives you more milk than you can consume, you begin to sell. How can one add value, more value to dairy products?
First of all, I think it's very important that whoever produces milk of very high quality. Because if you go out in the farms and you observe what they are doing, then you really see that a lot of improvements can be made on hygiene in the farm, and once that has been achieved, you have a good milk quality. You could, you know, value addition is necessary, because if you only sell fresh milk, it doesn't really pay.
Right.
And to make, say, yogurt, which is becoming now quite popular. When yogurt was introduced, it's a sour milk, you know, yogurt, and like Maziwa Lala.
Yes.
Yeah. People have come to like it. Yeah. So changing raw milk into yogurt, that is, I think, a worthwhile value addition.
Okay.
Another value addition could be through making cheese. For cheese, you need really high quality milk. Otherwise, your cheese will not taste well.
The quality will not be.
The quality will not.
When you talk about high quality milk, what is high quality? Who determines the quality? Because we imagine, I mean, from a layman's perspective, I have no control over the quality because it comes from the cow.
you have a certain amount of control because, yes, it comes from the cow. You will have to feed your animal well. And as I mentioned earlier, the hygiene is very important. Because if, for example, your cow gets mastitis, and that comes into the milk, then your milk quality has...
It goes down.
It has gone down completely. So in the case of mastitis, the hygiene is very important. So we have always been teaching the farmers, and even at the show, people will be demonstrated, you know, what to do in case of mastitis or how to prevent. The way you treat the udder before and have some dip to seal the teats after milking so that the bacteria
Does not go in.
does not go in. And if you follow all those practices, then you can get good quality milk.
Okay. All right. Let me come to Shaban, and possibly if somebody is looking and thinking, I would like to get into investing, especially in the Boran and going towards beef farming. What is a reasonable size of number to start with? Do you start with the small calves, grow them? Do you start with mature ones and make money out of that? And what capital are we looking at?
Well, I mean, a few have actually started with very young animals. But then the thing is that when you look at the Boran, you just don't want to actually pick the animal from northeastern Kenya and bring it in and actually say that you've got a Boran animal. I mean, there are lots of standards and classes that have got to be observed. I mean, like on the Boran side, you basically have inspectors that basically go through the herd and make sure that you've got the right Boran, that it's got actually got all the qualities and aspects of a true Boran. And so then that means that you could actually start with a calf, but then the thing is that it's got to be a pure Boran. Or you could actually say that I'm actually going to get a proper breed animal, probably from my colleague Jimmy here, that is already a grown-up, so that you can actually bring up your own herd. But then the thing is that you've got to make sure that you're ready to bring up the Boran animal by having ample space for them, because one of the qualities, Mr. Brooks, if I'm not wrong, it's actually got to make them walk a lot. And you've got to have enough land, basically, to make sure that you actually bring a good herd. And so the big herd, yes, you can do it, but then it's got lots of attributes in terms of cost, because you've got to have enough land, like, say, covering an acre up to about how many animals, Jimmy? Say,
Well, it depends. Obviously, depends where you are, Shaban. But in Laikipia, you're talking about 10 to 15 acres per animal.
yeah, can you imagine? So
10 to 15 acres, that's a lot of land. And that's for how many head of cattle?
That's one.
That's one head.
One animal.
Yeah. So it's not
15
actually
acres,
about
that's a
buying
huge
the animal.
investment.
It's actually making sure that we've got enough land to basically bring up the Boran.
I mean, the Boran is an animal that eats grass.
Okay.
Okay, you don't feed it unga and so forth.
Yeah, okay.
You want it to, it can utilize very poor quality thing, but then obviously where you got the poor quality grazing, where you got the poor quality grass, you don't have
a good yield.
You won't get a good yield. So you get a good yield in terms of beef, but you need a big space in order to keep that animal.
So you need to have 10 to 15 acres per head.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a huge investment, even just on the land.
Yes.
Are there certain areas that possibly then one would look at doing this? Because obviously that requires, one, that you have a lot of land, but also I would imagine that the weather would also affect maybe the animal.
Well, the good thing about the Boran is it is extremely adaptable. I mean, generally the Borans, as Shaban said, they come from northeastern province. They've been developed, they've been commercialized, improved by the commercial branches over many years. And they're all generally in dry countries, dry areas like Laikipia, Ukambani, the Rift Valley, Naivasha, and so forth, which are relatively dry areas. But I personally come from between Kericho and Nandi Hills with very high rainfall, and I breed Borans, and they survive. They've adapted to my conditions. But you know, the type of Boran that I produce is not exactly the same as necessarily will do well in Rumuruti or in I
Other
understand
areas.
they come from other areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is an adaptable animal, but generally the Baran has been raised to be an animal that can walk long distances, to look for water and look for forage and utilize those areas, whereas you couldn't put imported European breeds there because they won't survive.
Okay. And coming back to the amount of land and possibly the environment that is required, Shaban, does one need to do anything in that area, or is it literally just getting an area which has good grass, maybe like where he is, maybe good rainfall, then from there really all you have to do is take care of the animal?
Well, if you have good grass and where you are, then that's actually quite a good advantage. But then the thing is that, I mean, there's always supplements and the like. So it doesn't really matter where you are. As Jimmy says, he's got lots of rainfall the other side. I mean, perhaps maybe not really good enough space for the animals to walk a lot and that kind of thing, because it's more congested than the Laikipia side. But then if you can actually make it work on the other side and make sure that it's got enough feed, you can feed it well, or maybe you don't really have enough feed, but you can actually do supplements in terms of minerals and the like, where that actually works well.
Okay.
And should be able to.
All right.
bring
What
about
is the
good
general cycle? With crops, you sometimes have to plant a certain number of acreage, then give it a break and plant another different area, so that over the year or over a period you have consistent harvest. Is that the same thing with beef and dairy farming? Is there a way you space out the animals?
Yeah, perhaps maybe I'll leave that to my technical man, Jimmy, to answer that, because he says quite a lot in terms of the animals in there.
Yes. Especially being hands-on, being the man that is on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yes, you do need to. I mean, the common thing is rotation of your fields, your bomas, wherever you're keeping your livestock. I mean, obviously, if you're in a high productive area like Kiambu, you need far less space because you get more rain, your grass is better quality, so you will be able to keep more animals per acre, not the 15 acres per animal. But yes, you need to control how your animals graze in order to allow for regrowth, for seeding of your grass, so that you can maintain your pasture in good quality. If you just allow them to go wherever they want to, cows will always go and pick the tastiest grass, and they will kill that grass out unless you control their access to it.
So you'd probably need to also fence out certain areas so that
you need to do some herding, fencing, or something like that in order to control where they go.
Okay. All right, Turi, coming back now to the show and the fact that it's coming up on the 21st to the 23rd, some of the things that we should expect to learn, apart from just, what should we learn, or what do we expect to learn when we come for the show?
There are many things people can learn, and whenever we have a show, we run a questionnaire among the visitors, and we ask them, what did you learn? And we ask them, which other things would you like to learn in future? So our program is based on experience from previous shows that we say, from those questionnaires we found that most of their problems are on animal nutrition. They say we want to know about silage making, preservation of green maize or napier grass, which is part of nutrition. We want to know more about how to make animal feeds. What should I feed my animal? So based on those results of that questionnaire, we try to find topics which we have in another section of the showground where we have demonstrations and presentations. And they will cover areas like silage making, parts of nutrition, genetics, artificial insemination. People like to know as well about what they hear embryo transfer, so that topic is there. We have the biogas there as a demonstration, working, showing people the cow dung is not only manure, but if you pass it through the digester, you get gas, which can be for your lighting, or cooking. You can run an engine on biogas. So
Quite a number of things to learn.
You can see farming really is a business, yeah? Because you not only sell the milk, but even you get an income through
the biogas.
Through the cow dung.
And that can save you. And also manure and all that. Shaban, in terms of education, because evidently this is something that you need to learn how to do it right. Absolutely. You need to learn the details of how to do it right. How does one learn all this? Because in our education system, we probably don't go into detail of that. We'll talk about farming generally and agribusiness, but where does one learn all this?
Well, I mean, I hope our teachers in school are doing the right thing because, there's lots of education in school. But I would say that if you really want to get it right, then perhaps you really need to attach yourself to a farmer. Yeah, if you get to interact with the farmer, one who is doing it right, and perhaps has actually borrowed all the tips and education from the forefathers and the like, would work right. You just need to bring in some of the material that you have currently that is actually being brought into use, that is technology and the future, then blend the two and we'll get it all right. I mean, as Mr. Van Elden says, there's lots of education at the showground as well. I mean, farmers, would-be farmers, they should come to the show. There's quite a lot to learn in there. I mean, the trade exhibitors are in there as well, actually showing the equipment, the machinery, how to use it and everything else, the feeds are there, different kind of classes. So when you interact with the suppliers, interact with the other farmers, I think that is where the best quality education will be.
So it's one of those things that you learn hands-on. You need to be there to learn that. Okay, Jimmy, now that the show is coming up, where is the show going to be, first of all? Because I'm sure those who would want to come would want to know how to get there and the timings. Yeah,
the show is being held at ASK Jamhuri Park. The showground is there. The timings, the showground will be open from 6:30 in the morning until 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. People are welcome to come in at any time. Yeah,
it's open. For future's sake, because I'm sure by now it's too late for anybody who'd want to be an exhibitor to enroll. How does one go about, enrolling?
As a livestock exhibitor?
Yes, as an exhibitor.
Well, you need to join a breed society. And if you're a sheepkeeper, a Dorper sheep, you join the Dorper Sheep Association or something. Some of the smaller breeds, the wool sheep and the dairy goats have a thing, but the meat goats don't have a society. But they work under the aegis of the sheep Dorper Sheep Association, so they help them to come in. But on the cattle side, you have to join a breed society.
A breed society.
And then we have to have, because we want to show the best genetics, we only allow registered livestock to come in there.
Okay. Shaban, do we have anything online that possibly can point us to the show, maybe in terms of preparation and just to know what's going to be there in case somebody's catching us up with us now and maybe would want to know what we're talking about?
Yes, there's actually quite a lot on the Facebook about the show that you can look at. There's lots of material. I mean, the website actually can look at the website to be able to actually see quite a lot that is happening there. The timetable is in there. There's lots of actually publicity through the title sponsor, that is actually Brookside.
Brookside, right.
And that should be able to actually give people quite a lot of info that need to know about the show.
All right, Jimmy, you mentioned that you can get it on the website? Brookside.
Yes, the website is kenyalivestockshow.org. You can get a lot of information on there. There's also information on Facebook, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of information coming through Facebook as well on the show.
Okay.
So that's a good place to do. But I think we've discussed very little about dairying. But I would like to acknowledge our title sponsor, Brookside Dairy Limited, without whom we couldn't run the show.
Right.
But their interest obviously is in the dairying
Is in
aspect,
the dairy
not
aspect.
so much in the barans.
Oh,
But yeah, there's a lot that people can learn.
And a lot to learn
all the
right
dairy
there.
breeds represented at the show.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And that is Jimmy Brooks, show chairman for Brookside Livestock Breed Show that's coming up on the 21st to the 23rd of July. You've heard it's going to be at the Showground Center in Jamhuri. We also have Shaban Mwazando, who is a Boran farmer. And last but not least, Turi Van Halden, show manager. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing that information. And also just highlighting farming, beef and dairy farming as a source of business, and also just highlighting that. So that's where we're going to wind up our show this morning. Thank you for staying with us right here on Morning Express. But don't go away. We do have Worldview coming up straight, from 9 o'clock. So do stay with us right here on KTN News.